Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are live now. We can.
So, good morning, friends, and welcome to Live Pharma Coalition, the world's largest learning and sharing platform for the pharmaceutical professionals. It is said that if a drop of water falls in a lake, it loses its identity. But that same drop of water, if it falls on a leaf, it starts shining. So that's exactly what LPC platform is all about. It is about people who come to this platform and make it shine. And at the same time, they also shine themselves. So this has been the wonderful journey of 1.5 years, which LPC has still now encompassed in its endeavor to spread learning and sharing across the globe. So first, let me take a minute to share screen about our session support partner. Yes, today's session support as usual is with Stream Communications, who conduct live webcast, video conferencing, event management, and development. So they have a team of highly dynamic professionals who bring a rich expertise in the field of event management, marketing, information technology, with one common goal, that is to exceed the customer delight. And they have a very firm belief that communication and events shall flow beyond boundaries and penetrate to every corner of the planet. Now, there are certain things Stream Communication provides, like live webcast of Facebook, YouTube, and other social sites with unlimited participants. They also provide video on demand, record video delivery on audience's mobile handset, and they also manage response with voting pads. They are also present in virtual classroom training, where they share presentation, desktop, files transfer, and record the entire classroom training session. They are also there with the live streaming on web link with company logo or any brand logo. They have an archival for 2 months and have dedicated engineers with trial run. So thank you so much, Stream Communication, for being so dedicated as far as LPC is concerned. Next, I will introduce about our main platform, that is LPC. So welcome to Live Pharma Coalition, the world's largest online pharma discussion platform, which is purely dedicated to learning and sharing. So LPC has today come to a position because of the endeavor of so many people across the length and breadth of this entire industry, who come here every day, every week, and every month, so that we can become larger and larger. So Live Pharma Coalition has now had option of having a 5-week different type of specialty run, with the first week dedicated to leadership, the second week to global, the third to young, fourth is academic, and the fifth week for the women. The journey of LPC, as you all know, started almost 1.5 years back, when this entire globe was under the COVID pandemic. So this thought process, or the thought wave, if I can say, came to Mr. Raman Marke, who thought of sharing it with 3 of its friends, Mr. Yashwant Mishra, Mr. ICS Verma, and Mr. Vinod Vaswani. So the thought process that metamorphosized on the 10th of May 2020 has traveled a long journey, and today it has under its fold 28 strong executive members who are spread across the different dimensions of the pharmaceutical industry, and who bring a lot of learning, sharing, and experience along with them for the weekly pharma live discussions. Now, LPC has had a wonderful Facebook people reach of 20,000, with 5,000 Facebook engagement and 2,000 YouTube subscribers. The latest feather in the cap of LPC is the first, second, and third LPC. And as you all know, the first LPC is the online pharma discussion, for all on every Sunday at 11 a.m. IST, which we are currently in. The second LPC is the Mentor Master Program, which is only for the LPC registered members once every month, preferably the third Sunday. And the third LPC is the collaboration with companies, institutions, consultancy agencies for weekly session support and LPC registration. About our LPC mentor program, till now we have had 5 mentor programs for the 5 months that we have been able to surpass. And in this month also, the next Sunday will also be dedicated to our LPC mentor program. So coming to today's wonderful platform, that is LPC Global Leadership. Today we have wonderful speakers across the globe. The first is Ms. Sukhmander Kaur Randhaba, who is the Group CFO, Hilal Pharmaceuticals. Second, we have Ms. Lim E. Chen, who is Regulatory Chief, Hilal Pharmaceuticals. And along with that, Mr. Prabodh Joshi, who is Group CEO, Hilal Pharmaceuticals. So today we are more specific on what we call Malaysia, the southeastern part. But LPC, in its global endeavor, has already covered many parts of the globe, like the Philippines, Brazil, Ukraine, as well as Peru. So in our endeavor to spread learning and sharing across the globe. So along with these wonderful speakers, we too have some fantastic panelists like Mr. Praveen Pandey, Mr. Saurav Mishra, and Ms. Preeti Jitani. So thank you so much, LPC, because of the wonderful session that we have on LPC-85, which was leadership, and had a wonderful audience reach on Facebook page and YouTube. So I stopped my screen sharing. Yeah, so once again, welcome back, everybody. So as a global platform, we constantly are under the endeavor so that we can reach different places across the globe. And indeed, our global team of LPC executive members have left no stone unturned to bring across people across the different parts of the globe on this platform to share their experience as well as learning. So first of all, I would like to request our panelists to give a one minute introduction of themselves. So first, I would request Mr. Saurav Mishra to give a 1 minute introduction of himself.
Thank you, Arpanji. Good morning, viewers, and a warm welcome to all those people who are joining us from different parts of the globe. My name is Saurav Mishra. I'm associated with the LPC as an executive member since February 2021. In my professional capacity, I'm working as an AGM international business for Otsuka Pharmaceuticals, and I'm handling sales and business development of formulations in Southeast Asia and French West Africa. Today, we have with us Ms. E. Cheng from Hilal Pharmaceuticals, who is the head of regulatory affairs. And today we'll be discussing with her what are the pharmaceutical challenges for the companies in getting their products registered, as well as other regulatory affairs aspects of pharmaceutical market. And that's from my end. We look forward for an exciting session.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, I'll request all our viewers to keep posting us their queries on Facebook and YouTube so that we can seek the responses from our expert panel today. Thank you. Over to you, Arpanji.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saurav ji, for the wonderful introduction. Next, I will request Praveen ji so that he can give a 1 minute introduction of himself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Good morning to all viewers and good afternoon to all Malaysian residents. I'm Praveen Pandey. I'm offering my 14 years plus experience in pharmaceutical industry. I started career from Cipla Limited in domestic market, and after 6 years, I have moved in African market, which I have started from East Africa. Slowly, gradually, with other responsibility, I had started working in West Africa, and total 8 years experience in international, apart from this 14 years total. So thank you so much for offering me as a panelist today. And today we have market, especially some people who are having more than 30 years experience in pharmaceutical industry and 20 years plus from Malaysian market. So I would like to welcome Mr. Joshi ji also in this. From here, I would like to offer to join Ms. Preeti. to introduce herself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to the Southeast Asian friends specifically. Myself, Preeti Jitani, and I am working with V Healthcare Group as a General Manager Nutraceutical based out of Cambodia since last 4 years. Before this, I've been based in India and covering SAARC countries and was working with Roshan. I am a very passionate and energetic, self-motivated and a strong-headed individual. And I believe that when you attach a purpose to whatever you do, you will surely succeed in it. With this mindset of mine, I have reached the place where I am today, but everything said and done, it's the support of the family, which goes without saying. Today, when we are discussing Malaysia, and we have some very interesting people we will be hearing shortly from, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Sukhwinder Kaur, Sukhwinder Kaur Randwa, the Group CFO with Helol Pharmaceutical SDN BHD. We will talk to her more and know her more in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Arpan.
Yes, thank you so much, Preeti. That was really a nice introduction. So it is always said that our destiny is not created by the shoes we wear, but rather the steps we take. So every step that LPC takes, it's one step forward towards increased learning and sharing on this platform. So first of all, I would request Sukhwinder ma'am to give a 1-minute introduction of what she has to deliver to us today. Sukhwinder ma'am, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sukhwinder Kaur Randwa. I'm the Group CFO of Helol Pharmaceuticals Sdn Bhd. I basically manage the financial side of the corporation and the group. And I will be talking about incorporation of companies, taxation, and banks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we are very much looking forward to learning a lot of things from you when you are with your topic. So thank you for that. And next, I will go to Ms. Chen, if she can give us a 1-minute introduction of her topic.
And good day, everyone. I'm Lin Chen. I'm the Regulatory Affairs Pharmacist in Helol Pharmaceuticals Sdn Bhd, Malaysia. Basically, I handle the regulatory part for the company in terms of registration of products. So today I'll be talking about the challenges in registration of products in Malaysia, in particular for medicinal products as well as medical devices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now I will go over to Joshi sir, so he can give us a brief about what he has to offer to us today. Sir, over to you.
Yes, first of all, I will say namaskar, because namaskar will cover all good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because as I understand,
follow the COVID protocol also.
Yes, and I think it will cover all the viewers from across the world. Just to give you a small introduction about myself, I started my career in 1989 in Alembic. I was based in Agra headquarters at that time. And Alembic is considered as the training house of pharmaceutical industry in India. And after working 1 year in Alembic, I jumped to Pfizer, again based at Agra and Firozabad headquarters. I worked almost 4 years with Pfizer. And after Pfizer, I had a privilege of joining Solus, Ranbaxy Group company. We launched the company in India. And after Solus, I joined Orchid Healthcare based at Ghaziabad. I was looking after half of UP. I was in the capacity of regional manager. And I have a privilege of launching Orchid as well. So when I was in India, I had an experience of launching 2 pharmaceutical companies. I worked with 4 pharmaceutical companies. 2 were very well established, Alembic and Pfizer. And I had an opportunity to launch Solus and Orchid. You know, you get to have different exposure and different experience when you work with an established company or when you launch a new company. And in 2001, I joined Helol Malaysia. I was introduced by one of my friends who was with Helol in some other country. He introduced me to the owners of this company, and that's how I came to join Helol in 2001. Since 2001, I have been looking after Malaysia and Philippines. And 2.5 years ago, my boss, who was the owner of this company, unfortunately, he passed away. And as per his wish, I have been given this additional responsibility of Group CEO. So now I look after Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and very soon we are entering into Myanmar as well. And since the topic is Malaysia today, and first Ms. Sukhwinder will let us know that how to start a company. Then since we are in a regulated business, then Ms. Eching will help us how to register the products. Once you incorporate the company and once you have the registration, then our role comes into the play, sales and marketing. So after the presentation, basically I have shared my presentation about Malaysia's pharmaceutical industry, Malaysia's healthcare system, I would say, and pharmaceuticals, they play a very vital role in the healthcare sector of any country. So my presentation will be about the healthcare sector and more specifically about the pharmaceuticals, about Malaysia. And we have not talked about, Brunei is a very small market. It is, you can consider it a part of Malaysia as far as market is concerned. I've got a 1 or 2 presentations on Brunei as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pramod sir. That was really a wonderful experience sharing of your career journey. And no wonder Malaysia is truly Asia. And basically the entire Southeast Asian countries that you have still now having operations is going to yield a lot of good results. So we are looking forward to hearing from you about your journey and about the pharmaceutical market in Southeast Asia, the Malaysian markets. So now I will hand it over to Preeti ma'am, where she is going to introduce our first speaker on the platform today, that is Sukhwinder ma'am. So over to you, Preeti ma'am.
Thanks, Arpan. Thanks once again. As Sukhwinder ma'am already introduced herself, I'll just repeat a few quick, her designation, her company. But yes, I'll speak more about her. Sukhwinder Kaur Randwa, ma'am is a Group CFO with Halal Pharmaceutical SD and BHD for the last 17 years. She's a chartered accountant and a member of the Malaysian Institute of Accounts and the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. She has over 23 years of experience in finance, and she has a strong accounting and auditing background. She is accountable as a CFO for the administrative, financial, and risk management operations of the company. She also provides leadership, direction, and management to the finance and the accounting team. Providing strategic recommendations to the CEO is also a part of roles that she plays, along with the members and the management of the team. Advising on long-term business and the financial planning is an additional role that she is playing as a CFO. Welcome, Ms. Sukhwinder Kaur Randwa, ma'am. Sukhwinder ma'am.
Sukhwinder ma'am, now we can have a small discussion about what you have to deliver to us. So if you are ready, we'll go over to you.
I think the net.
I think she has lost connectivity. So no problem. We can go over to our second speaker, Chen ma'am, if she is ready. So we can have the introduction from Sauravji, right? Okay, Sauravji, you're on mute.
Okay, Panchi, we think that Ms. Sukhwinder is experiencing some technical glitch.
Please go ahead.
We would like to break the flow which Parbodji has suggested, that first we'll go with the finance and company registration, but at least, okay, it would be good to have a survey of how the pharmaceutical product registration market is. That will take you a decision whether to go into pharmaceuticals or not.
Just to interrupt you, Sauravji, I think Sukhwinder ma'am is back. Ma'am, are you back?
Yes.
We lost connectivity. We lost connectivity. So now we can once again go with the actual flow that we had decided. Okay, so Sukhwinder ma'am, so if you are ready, we can start our discussion.
Yes, sure. I'm ready.
Yeah, Preeti ma'am, over to you.
Yes, welcome ma'am once again.
Thank you.
Yes, to dear viewers, we will be discussing today, as ma'am introduced before, about the topic that we will be talking about: company formation, taxation, and the banking or the financial institutions. So we'll be covering all these topics during our discussion. In case you have any questions for ma'am, you just put it down in our comments on the YouTube or Facebook, or we will come back to you again at the end of the session. So ma'am, this is the first thing that I would like to understand from you. If somebody is, as in this, there's a business entity who intends to start a business in Malaysia, what are the company incorporation norms that one has to start with?
Okay, let me explain about the incorporation of a company in Malaysia. Okay, in Malaysia, one of the most common methods of conducting a business is via a company registered under the Companies Act 2016. Business owners can either incorporate a private company. It's a Sendirian Berhad, short form is SDN BHD. Sendirian Berhad means private limited company, or a public company, which is a Berhad. The main distinction between a private and public company is that a private company is limited to a maximum of 50 shareholders. As such, most business owners choose to incorporate private companies, which may then be converted to a public company in the event the company intends to be listed on the share market, upon which the company then becomes a public listed company. The process to incorporate a private company in Malaysia is governed by the Companies Commission of Malaysia. As a minimum, the proposed private company must have at least one director who ordinarily resides in Malaysia, by having a principal place of residence in Malaysia, and a minimum of one promoter, which means the person will be doing the work of the incorporation of the company. The minimum, the minimum requirement is one director, one shareholder.
Okay. So is there any kind of a minimum investment that is required to start a private limited company? So we will speak more about the private limited company to start with.
Yes. Okay. For a private limited company, if it's a locally owned company, which means 51% of the shareholding is Malaysian, then the minimum investment is 1,000 ringgit Malaysia.
Okay.
Whereas if it's a foreign owned company, which means 51% is owned by a foreigner, then the minimum paid up capital has to be ringgit Malaysia 400,000, 500,000.
Okay. Right. So, and how long does it take generally for a formation or the company formation period from the registration or the setting up the documents, applying for it?
Okay, the full process of registering and forming a private limited company usually takes 1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks.
Yes,
right.
Because there are a lot of documentation to be prepared, get it signed by all the necessary people, get it signed by a commission of oath. That may take time because not all the directors are staying at the same place.
Correct.
1 to 2 weeks.
And is there any number of minimum number of employees that are to be a part of such a company, privately, whether small, medium, or large, on the basis of that?
No, there is no limit.
There's nothing.
It all depends on the operations of the company.
So basically, the understanding from a company formation part is that there are two categories, that is a private limited and a public limited. Private limited company formation generally takes 1 to 2 weeks of the time for completion of the paperwork. And apart from that, we need one director along with the promoter, and the director has to be resident in Malaysia, is what our understanding is. Yes. Thank you. We'll go to our next part of the question answer, that is the taxation part. So could you just help us with understanding what are the kinds of taxes applicable, or what is the rate of taxation that is applicable to individual or the company?
Okay. Income tax in Malaysia is imposed actually basically on the income accruing or derived from Malaysian residents and businesses. Malaysia currently has a progressive income tax rate which ranges from 19 to 28%. The flat rate of 30% is applied to individuals who do not meet the residence requirements. Individuals are taxed on income earned in Malaysia on a per capita basis. For corporate income tax in Malaysia, corporations are subject to corporate income tax, real property gains tax, goods and services tax. In other words, residents and non-resident organizations doing business and generating taxable income in Malaysia will be taxed on an income accrued in or derived from Malaysia. Residents, organizations carrying out business of air, sea or transport, banking and insurance are taxable on their global income.
Okay.
Having said that, there are exemptions for resident banks, insurance companies, and takaful companies. There are specific conditions that have to be met for that. The tax year for a business usually follows the financial year ending in that particular year of assessment. As for normally corporate tax is at 24%.
Okay.
Yeah, the Malaysian corporate tax is 24%. As for individual income tax in Malaysia, it is imposed on income earned in Malaysia or received in Malaysia from outside of Malaysia. In this light, every individual is subject to tax on income accruing in or derived from Malaysia. That said, income earned overseas, remitted to Malaysia by a resident or an individual, is exempted from tax. Income is assessed on a current year basis, and individuals must comply with the self-assessment scheme. The tax rate differs as it is calculated according to the chargeable income of resident individual taxpayers. So there are brackets. So it can go, it is from 1% to 26%. So it depends on the bracket of the income. So yeah, so the tax rate differs. There's no fixed rate for individual tax.
So in the corporate tax, which we mentioned is 24%, in that also is there a slab of taxation on the business turnover, or it's a flat thing?
It's a flat rate, but for small and medium enterprises, which are known as SMEs, yes, there are slabs, because small and medium enterprises are basically those companies that have a paid up capital not more than Ringgit Malaysia 2.5 million.
Okay.
So in that case, SMEs are normally taxed at 17% on the first 600,000. And the balance is taxed at 24%.
Okay. And is there kind of a tax holiday also applicable to corporate houses, or is it only to the industries or the manufacturing side only?
Yeah, there's no tax holiday for business entities for trading and other operations. Only for manufacturing.
Okay.
There is a certain license you will have to apply for, and then you'll be exempted for maybe 5 to 10 years, depending on the turnover of the company.
Understand. So what we understand under taxation is basically that the corporate tax has a 24% straight tax. The slab is there, but it is only for the SME segment, and there is no tax holiday applicable for the corporate entities. It's only for the manufacturing category.
Yes.
Going ahead to understand more on the finance or the financing institutions or the banking institutions. So could you just brief us about that a little?
Banking, is it? Banking and
yes, the financial institutions.
Okay, banks in Malaysia, some of which are the largest in Southeast Asia, offer a comprehensive range of banking and financial services. The country's financial institutions are governed by the Bank Negara Malaysia, which was established in 1959. It serves as the country's central bank, responsible for promoting monetary and financial stability. Some of the top financial institutions or banks are CIMB Bank Berhad, HSBC Bank Berhad, Maybank, Malayan Banking Berhad, Hong Leong Bank Berhad, OCBC Bank Malaysia Berhad. These are some of the top banks.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there, I would like to understand, suppose there is a business entity which comes over there in Malaysia, is in setting up a business over there, registers his company. In a few years period, they require some financial assistance or something, some kind of a loan. Is that applicable for if the company is foreign owned?
No, that's not applicable. Okay, you see, there are no such conditions that the company has to be a local owned company or foreign entity. Okay. It doesn't matter. As long as the company is able to give a security to the bank, it can be in a way of property, company owned property, or deposits, fixed deposits. Okay. Then any company, whether local or foreign, is able to get banking facilities or loans from the banks.
So basically some kind of collateral guarantee is what we're talking about.
Yes, so there are no other restrictions as if depending whether the company is foreign owned or locally owned. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anything else in specific that a new entity should keep in mind apart from these three important categories that we have discussed today from your side?
Okay, there is one thing to incorporate a company. Sometimes a company, certain people want it on a fast track basis. They just want the company very fast. So there are actually shelf companies available. Company secretaries normally have shelf companies, which are companies that are already incorporated, and these companies are dormant. That means they do not have any operations. So you can actually just buy over the company. So the existing shareholders and directors will resign, and the new batch takes over. And that takes about 1 to 2 days, and the company is yours. Because the company is dormant, it doesn't have any bank accounts, any operations. So you can just actually take it over within 1 to 2 days, depending on once the documents are signed. So that is if you want a company really fast.
Thanks, Ms. Sukhvinder. So I will just put a summary of all the discussion that we had in just now. So forming a company in Malaysia is the basic rules that we have to follow as per the Malaysian Incorporation Companies Act. And it takes minimum of 1 to 2 weeks, as ma'am informed. And there are 2 ways to go about it. One is a private, one is a public. Most of the private entities, if they want to go by the private way, we need a local resident who is residing in Malaysia along with the promoter. The tax slab for a corporate entity is around 24% flat unless you are in the SME segment. And there are banking facilities available and the banking loans available. You can apply for a loan and by basis of collateral guarantee. Also, ma'am informed us about going a fast track company formation by the way of buying a company or buying a self company or a dormant company through a company secretariat.
Yes.
Anything else, audience, that you would yet like to ask Ms. Sukhvinder over here? You can just drop us a question in our comment box and we will come back to you. Thank you, Ms. Sukhvinder, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a wonderful knowledge sharing by Sukhvinder ma'am and equally good summarization by Preeti ma'am. So that's exactly what LPC stands for, knowledge sharing. So next we have another wonderful speaker, Ms. Chen. And before that, Mr. Saurav Mishra is going to introduce her. Over to you, Saurav, sir.
Thank you, Arpanjit. And thank you, Ms. Sukhvinder, for a detailed insight on the company registration. The most astonishing part from your discussion I found is the shell companies. And that's a wonderful arrangement, I would say. And right from beginning, right from the Southeast Asian economic crisis, we have seen that Malaysia has led the way of reforms, and they have made the business ease of doing business is quite good in Malaysia, and that is what has attracted investors all across the globe to Malaysia. So that's the reason we got to the reasons why it has happened. We got to know from you. Thank you, very very valuable insights. Now, moving forward, we'll be now discussing the regulatory aspects of Malaysian pharmaceutical market. And to introduce to our viewers the regulatory aspects of Malaysia, we have today with us Ms. Lim E. Cheng. Ms. Lim brings along us with her 8 years of work experience, which includes the experience in the retail and hospital pharmacy, as well as her 4.5 years of work experience in the regulatory and dossier filing with Haydol Pharmaceuticals. Ms. Lee has expertise in the registration of prescription drugs, OTC drugs, nutraceuticals, as well as medical devices. She also holds expertise in the audits and inspections of pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities outside Malaysia, as well as the bioequivalence and clinical trial centers as well. Ms. Lim is alumni of the esteemed Nottingham College in England. She holds a master's in pharmaceuticals from Nottingham College. Ms. Lee, welcome to LPC. Now I would like to hand over the screen to Ms. Cheng and to start her presentation. Over to you, Ms. Cheng.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah. For this show, I have prepared a power slideshow, which I will be sharing now. So I will talk about the regulatory part in Malaysia. So first of all, there are three big product classification in Malaysia. The first one is medicinal product, and this is regulated by the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency, NPRA. And the second one is medical device, regulated by the Medical Device Authority, MDA. And the third one is a food drug interface product, which is regulated by Food Safety and Quality Division, FSQD, which we are not going to focus on today because this is for the food industry. So for medicinal products, this is the definition. The term actually refers to the product as stated in Regulation 2, Control of Drug and Cosmetic Regulations 1984, which is applicable to pharmaceutical and natural products. So under this regulation, product means a drug in a dosage unit or otherwise for use wholly or mainly by being administered to one or more human beings or animals for a medicinal purpose, or a drug to be used as an ingredient of a preparation for a medicinal purpose. So there are further classifications for the medicinal products. It can be further divided into the following categories: new drug products, which is something new, some new active ingredient, a new molecule; biologics; generics, which can be further divided into generic poison and generic non-poison; health supplements, and natural products. So for the registration pathway for medicinal products, which is regulated by the MPRA, is through an online submission portal known as the Quest3 Plus. And for the registration, we need to submit documents which are known as the ACTD in Asian Common Technical Dossier, which comes in 4 parts, part 1 to part 4. So for the part 1 is more on the administrative parts. They are divided into section A, B, C, D, and E. Section A being product particulars for the information regarding the products. Section B is the product formula. Section C is particulars of the packing. And D is the labels, which are the artworks for the products. And E is supplementary documentation for the products. So I'm now going to talk more on certain parts of the section E's, which are the more important documents. So for E3, we have a COPP, Certificate of Pharmaceutical Products. This must be issued by the competent authority in the country of origin. And Malaysia has a requirement whereby the product must be registered and marketed in the country of origin. Otherwise, the product cannot be registered in Malaysia. And if this cannot be achieved, if in case where COPP is not available, free sales certificate, FSC, can be provided as a supporting document. And another important documentation is the GMP. So for new drug product, biologics, and generics, a PICS GMP from the PICS authority is required. Whereas for health supplement or natural products, a GMP by a local DCA would be acceptable. So next is the part 2 of the ACTD. Section P is for the drug product, and section S is for the drug substance, which is the active ingredient of the product. So for section P, some of the important sections are P3.4, process validation, whereby it is a requirement that 3 consecutive commercial batches need to be validated. However, this is not a requirement for health supplement and natural products. As for pH stability data, because Malaysia is a tropical country, so we need data under zone 4B, which is conducted under 30 degrees Celsius and 75% humidity for the real-time data, whereas for accelerated, it will be under 40 degrees Celsius and 75 relative humidity. Of course, except for the products which require special storage conditions such as refrigeration. And we need 2 batches of in-use stability data also for products that will be reconstituted, or for product that are for multiple use. And minimum 6 months of stability data are required at point of submission. There's another important section under section P is P9, product interchangeability or equivalence. This is only required for generic products containing scheduled poison in oral solid dosage forms. So MPRA actually has a list of the BE centers that they have already validated. So in case if the BE study was conducted at one of the BE studies that are listed by the MPRA within the validity period, then the BE study can be automatically acceptable by MPRA for further evaluation. Otherwise, we will need to apply to determine if the BE study inspection will be required. So in case whereby the outcome is positive, we can proceed with dossier submission. Otherwise, if the outcome is negative, whereby BE study inspection is required, we will have to apply for MPRA study-specific inspection before dossier submission is possible. So next, we are going to move on to section S under part 2. There are two options whereby the manufacturer can submit information regarding the drug substance. The first option is through DMF, Drug Master File. We need to upload the complete open part on Questream Plus, whereas the closed part is to be directly submitted to MPRA by the API vendor. Another option to submit the section S information is through CEP, whereby we need the most current CEP, including all the annexes. So for section S drug substance, we need the full section for new drug product, biologics, and generic poisons. Certain parts only required for generic non-poisons, which is the S1 product information, S2.1 the manufacturer information, and S4. Whereas for health supplements and natural products, only the COA is required. Next, we'll move on to the ACTT Part 3. This refers to the non-clinical documentation, which comprises of safety and residues documentation. This is only required for new drug product and biologics, similar to the Part 4, the clinical documentation, only required for new drug product and biologics. So moving onwards, we'll talk about medical devices. So this is the definition for medical devices. It is any instrument, apparatus, implement, machine, appliance, implant, in vitro reagent or calibrator, software, material, or other related article intended to be used for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment of disease, or compensation for an injury, or investigation purpose, support or life-sustaining, control of conception, disinfection of medical device, or providing information for medical or diagnostic purpose by means of in vitro examination. The important point here is that medical device does not achieve its primary intended action in or on the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but they may be assisted in its intended function by such means. So medical devices can be further divided into general medical device or in vitro medical device. Both are further classified into 4 classes. Class A, B, C, and D depends on the class risk level. Class A being the lowest risk, whereas Class D being the highest risk. So this is the registration pathway for medical devices in Malaysia. It is also through an online submission portal known as MedCast 2.0. So we will have to appoint a CAB, which is a Confirmative Assessment body in Malaysia, to conduct conformity assessment before we can submit the product for registration on the website. So for the conformity assessment, there are a few main elements which must be provided by the manufacturer. The first one is the Quality Management System, QMS. For manufacturer, we require an ISO 13485. The second one is a pre-market clearance or approval from recognized country, such as from an EU notified body or similar clearance from US, Canada, Australia, or Japan. We also need post-market surveillance system established by the manufacturer and a dossier template in the Common Submission Dossier Template, CSTD, as well as a Declaration of Conformity, DOC. For the CSDT, there are a few elements which has to be provided, depends on the type of medical device as well, because some elements are not applicable. So this includes an executive summary and essential principles and methods used to demonstrate conformity, device description, summary of design verification and validation, preclinical and clinical data, device labeling, risk analysis, and as well as manufacturer information. And this shall include details of manufacturing information, QM measures, and sterilization methods, if applicable. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cheng, for the detailed insight on the registration of pharmaceuticals and medical devices. It is indeed, a great insight for someone who is planning to start the product registration in Malaysia. We came to know from your from the deliberation that NPRA is the nodal agency for registration of devices as well as pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are registered through Quest 3+ format, and Medcast is the portal for registration of medical devices. We have a query from one of our viewers about the process of registration of nutraceuticals, the food supplements, which are categorized as medical foods. So would you like to please share some details on what the registration process of nutraceuticals?
For food supplement, if it's classified by as a health supplement in Malaysia, then we need it to be registered through the NPRA pathway as a health supplement. Otherwise, if it's in the food drug interface, then as I mentioned before, it will be regulated by the food division. So in order to determine which product category a particular product falls in Malaysia, if let's say we are unsure of the category, we can apply for classification to the authority to determine the category.
Okay. So what would be the timeline of registration of medicinal food, or I would say nutraceuticals?
So for health supplement, it'll be around 1 to 1.5 years.
Okay. 1 to
yes,
1.5 years.
provided complete documentation is provided.
Okay, understood. And what would be the approximate timeline for registration of prescription product, pharmaceuticals?
For pharmaceuticals, it will take around 2 years' time.
2 years' time. Okay, 2 years from the submission date.
Yeah, from the submission.
Okay. Another query when it comes to Malaysia is that Malaysia is a member of the PIC scheme. So how does registrations or the plant GMP from other PICS member nation is recognized by NPRA? For example, if the plant outside Malaysia is approved by the regulatory authority of Ukraine, which is also a PICS member. So does Malaysia also mutually recognizes these PICS approvals? Yes,
Malaysia recognize approval by other PICS authority.
Okay, and the same thing goes for EU GMP or the US FDA manufacturing sites as well?
Yes, correct.
Okay. One more question from what I got an insight from Mr. Parbot's deliberation that Brunei is very close to Malaysia, in fact, surrounded all around by Malaysia. So is there a possibility that the registrations of product registrations of Malaysia are mutually recognized by Brunei or the other way around?
From my experience, we need separate registration in Brunei and Malaysia.
Okay. So recently we came across a update from the Singaporean Registration Authority that Singapore is willing to recognize the registrations, product registrations that are already registered with NPR in Malaysia. So is that been practically implemented, or just we are just we'll have to wait for the mutual recognitions in both the countries?
It is actually being rolled out, whereby submission has to be done concurrently at both countries.
Okay.
To both authorities.
Here, I would like to add a bit, if you allow me.
Yes, sir, please.
See,
please.
for you have mentioned that Singapore is going to accept or recognize all the registrations done in Malaysia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this ASEAN common guidelines, they have been being discussed for last probably 20 years, that they will have common registration for Southeast Asia. But the problem is they have not been able to reach to a common ground. Which country is going to be, the hallmark, whether it's Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand or Singapore is very practical that way. So this is not something new. I think they have been discussing it for last 20 years. And I think it's going to create a lot of confusion, because like companies like us, suppose for company A, we represent them in Malaysia and they're being represented by someone else in Vietnam or in Thailand. You got my point. Then there'll be another problem there. Even if I'm not a registration holder in Malaysia, but I'm a registration holder in Vietnam, I can still commercialize that product in Malaysia. So this is a different issue. Okay, coming to this Brunei, you see, there was a time that Brunei used to recognize registrations from Malaysia, Singapore, Canada, UK and Australia. If your product is registered there, you can import the products in Brunei, because Brunei, like Singapore, it encourages parallel import if the product is registered there. But now for last 4-5 years, Brunei says that we will also have our own registration. But as per my understanding, if your product is registered in these 5 countries, then registration is very short, very small set of documents are required. But yes, if your product is registered in Malaysia, it is a tender, and you are not yet registered in Brunei, you can participate in the tender with Malaysian registration with letter of undertaking that we will initiate the registration.
Okay.
And then you can participate there. So that's why I just wanted to interfere on this part, because I Ching primarily looks after Malaysian registrations, and she looks after those Brunei registrations whenever we have to
specifically
call
go
it
for
supplementary registration in Brunei.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
So what I understood, recognition is, but it's a partial recognition, and it helps to speed up the registration process in these individual countries. But absolutely, it cannot be mutually recognized. It has to be different.
They have been working on it for last 20 years plus. They wanted to have a common registration guidelines, and they will mutually recognize registrations done in other countries. But somehow they have not been able to conclude it. If you ask me personally, I'm very happy if they don't recognize it. Otherwise, it's going to create a lot of confusion for companies like us who are representing various Indian companies from India. Otherwise, what will happen, Mr. Saurabh, that suppose you handle these 4 or 5 countries and you don't like me. It can happen. So what will happen, that you will go to the other distributor and you can supply the stocks to him. So then we will have to probably depend on the moods of the managers who are covering this part of the world. Preeti is laughing. Right?
I understand.
Okay, please carry on.
It has to be a level playing field, and yes, consensus is very difficult, because even though ASEAN is considered as one unit, but the standards of pharmaceutical practices are very different in each
and the
market.
requirements are different.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I understand that. Thank you, Mr. Parbod, for your intervention. Thank you. One more question for Ms. Ching, then we move ahead with the session. Who exactly is the manufacturing authorized or market authorization holder? Suppose a company manufacturer set up in Philippines wishes to get the product registered in Malaysia. So who will be the MA holder in Malaysia of that product?
So for MA holder, we refer it as a product registration holder. it has to be a company registered in Malaysia.
Okay.
So like for example, in our case, Hilo will be the product registration holder.
Okay, so the foreign manufacturer must have a local partner to get the product registered with NPR.
Yes, correct.
Or else the easy way is the shelf companies, which Ms. Sukhinder has just mentioned.
Yes, actually, you see, in this arrangement, manufacturer is the owner of the product owner.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, we are registration holder. He is the product holder.
Okay.
So we cannot buy this product from someone else. He cannot sell this product to someone else. It's like a marriage.
It's a mutual binding. Oh, that's wonderful.
It's like a successful marriage without any divorce clause.
Okay. So I mean, both the local partner as well as manufacturer are bound as per law to work with each other. Okay. So that stops us from appointing multiple importers for the same product in Malaysia.
No, Malaysia allows more than one registration. I'm right, Ms. Iching? With the letter of undertaking. Malaysia allows more than one registration from one manufacturing site. The only thing is the second one who's going to apply, it will be, they have to sign an agreement that we appoint you as our contract manufacturer.
Yeah, that's correct.
Am I right, Ms. Iching?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Good. Thank you for your insight, Mr. Prabodh and Ms. Ching. Now I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Arpan to take the session forward. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Arpan.
Thank you so much, Saurabh-ji. In fact, Ms. Chen's discussion was very insightful about the regulatory affairs that come into products as far as Malaysia is concerned. And Prabodh sir also had wonderful insights which he provided to us. And that was exactly what this platform is all about. So going forward with this learning and sharing, now I would request Praveen Pandey-ji to give an introduction of Prabodh Joshi sir, and after that he can start his deliberations. Over to you, Praveen-ji.
Thank you once again. It's my honor as well as my privilege to introduce Mr. PK Joshi. Already he has given a brief about him, and we have seen his participation in session, but still, as per protocol, definitely I would like to go with part of introduction. Mr. Joshi is a graduate in biomedical science, and he has completed in 1989. After that, he has joined Alembic, as he has introduced in previous time. After Alembic, he has worked with Pfizer, with Solis, with Orchid in domestic market from as the place of area manager as well as regional manager. Well, mostly he was in North India, I should say. And after that, in 2001, he has been assigned for I think his first international assignment. And he started with Hilal Pharma based at Malaysia. At present, he is holding a designation as a group CEO for Hilal Pharma, and he is based in Malaysia. Mr. Joshi, I would like to welcome you once again, and this session is going up to you. We would like to hear something from you, and definitely after that, we'll come with some questions. Thank you.
I think we have already spoken that I think I have been introduced by myself and by the panel, I think few times already, right? I think let's move on to the session. And one thing I would like to add here that I'm very privileged to be based in Malaysia. It's as Sukhinder has mentioned, from financial point of view or the financial institutions point of view, it's a very stable country. Politically, it's a very stable country. And even regulatory wise, it is very stable and very honest. And so far, I have not seen in my 20 years plus experience that, sometimes people will come and ask us that if we can pay under table and get the registration faster. So I'm very proud to share with you, this country is very straightforward, very honest. You follow the system, no one will disturb you. And I'm very proud to share with you that, Sukhinder and Iching, they are local Malaysians. I'm from India. We know how the healthcare system, the public sector healthcare system works in India and how it works in Malaysia. I was shocked when I saw it here. Malaysia provides probably the best healthcare system in the world. You have to just spend 1 ringgit, which is close to 25 US cent. You go to the hospital, you will be seen by the doctor, you will be prescribed the medicine by the hospital free. So the kind of, when I first time started covering the government hospitals, I was shocked to see, even we don't have, we are not trying to criticize our own country. Our country has our own strengths, but these are the area of improvements which I have seen that as far as infrastructure is concerned, I think even India, such a big country, we should learn from Malaysia. The infrastructure is fantastic. Okay, so now I think we can start with your session, Mr. Pandey.
Sure, sir. Because you are staying in, with 32 million population, and by GDP ranking, it's 36th worldwide. So there are some queries which people wants to know, viewers who are listening and viewing. There are some. So we will come in sequence. The first, some people would like to know what is more acceptable medicines or tree of drugs in Malaysia, if we'll go with generic or branded.
Actually, just to give you a brief that yes, as compared to the, as I understand, you're talking about the acceptance and the affordability of the right, isn't it? So yes, as far as affordability in Malaysia is concerned, it is far better than our part of the world. It is far better than Vietnam, Cambodia, or Philippines for that matter. But yes, everyone is not rich enough to continue to afford the medicines from the multinational companies. Please understand that Malaysia gives a very strong patent protection. It gives 20 plus 2, 22 years patent protection. And that is why you will see that Malaysia is very strongly dominated by multinational companies. And multinational companies have a price tag. Drugs are not cheaper. So when you go to the doctor, if you ask a doctor, given a choice, you forget about the price, doctor would prefer to prescribe a product from a multinational company. In spite of all the BE studies, all the BE approvals, and all the regulatory approvals which Ms. Iching has mentioned, it is not easy to register a product in Malaysia. More difficult it is to register, it means it ensures quality of the product. In spite of this, if doctor is given a choice, he prefers to prescribe a product from a multinational company. But when it comes to affordability, like chronic patients, if he has to take anti-diabetic or anti-asthma medication for a long period, yes, there's a substitution which takes place at the clinics and in the pharmacies.
The same like worldwide is happening.
Yeah, everyone is under pressure. But they say, people say economy is bad. I say it is good for generics. Because, sometimes you become so selfish, you forget about whether GDP or economy is doing well or not. You think that if economy is bad, people will have less money to spend. So good, it's an opportunity for generics.
True. As you end with GDP, so Malaysian GDP is touching almost 7% growth. The three components are there in pharmaceutical industry companies, I should say, three types. Such company who are operating based in India, they have importers, distributors in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Few companies, they have manufacturing plant in India, but they have one corporate office as well as distribution channel also in Malaysia. And some companies, they have their own manufacturing unit in Malaysia. So how government as well as private market accepts this distinguish?
Actually, you see, every country has a sovereign rights to protect its local industry. And Malaysia is not an exception, and which is appreciable. And even though it affects our business, you see, in government sector, if the product is manufactured in Malaysia, and if there are more than one registration from Malaysia, then tenders are usually awarded to the local manufacturers, even if their price is on a higher side. So those products which are, suppose Mr. Pandey comes to me, he say, I want to register this product in Malaysia for tender. Our first thing, we check whether this product is locally manufactured or not. If it is locally manufactured and it is for tender, then we don't register those products, because as per the government's unwritten policy, those tenders are awarded to the local manufacturers. So that is the advantage local manufacturers they have in the government sector only. But when it comes to the private, whether product is manufactured in India, or whether it is sold by a distributor, or whether it is sold by an Indian manufacturer with a corporate office in Malaysia, it depends on your marketing muscle.
Great, great. When we were talking about tender only, one question has came from Mr. Arvind. Sorry, I'm just going meanwhile, but it's relevant here. Mr. Arvind, he is a DRA manager in other company based in New Delhi. He has one question, like if someone, if it is not there, if local manufacturer is not there for atorvastatin, but one Indian company has got registered only 10 mg, not 20 mg. Atorvastatin 10 mg is available, but not 20 mg. So in such cases, they can participate in tender or not.
You see, Malaysia tender, when it comes, if that sometimes tender will come for 10 milligram. If the tender comes for 10 milligram, he can participate. Mr. Arvind can participate if he has a registration of 10 milligram and the tender for 10 milligram. But if the tender comes, sometimes you see, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of processes you have to go through in Ministry of Health to approve the tender by the tender board. So what they do, they don't go by 10 mg, 20 mg, 40 mg, 80 mg separately. They give you, they say package 10, 20, 30, 40. If the tender comes under package, then you will not be able to participate in the tender because you're having only one strength.
Okay. If if intended, both his strength is there, then what to be?
This is what I say. If tender they have 10 mg and 20 mg, 40 mg and 80 mg, and you have only 10 mg registered, you are not qualified to participate in the tender then, because you are not offering what is being asked by the government.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Some people, they have idea about insurance and some private practice. So the question is, what is more practiced in Malaysian market? Like people, they go to private prescription or from own pocket, or it has been assisted from insurance by government?
You see, if you, in order to respond to your question, I have to just give you a small background about the market here. Malaysia pharmaceutical industry, basically, you have to divide it into two first: the public sector and the private sector. Public sector, you have hospitals managed by Ministry of Health, hospitals managed by Ministry of Education, the teaching hospitals, and hospitals managed by Ministry of Defense, right? There, everything is free. You have to pay 1 ringgit, register yourself as a patient, then everything is free. So whether there's no question of insurance as far as the public sector is concerned, everything is free. The only thing is you have to wait. Sometimes if in order to see a medical officer, you have to spend 1 full day, but everything is free. So now come back to the private sector. In private sector is divided into 3 segments here: private hospitals, general practitioners, and pharmacies, because pharmacies play a very important role in chronic therapy. So when you go to the GP and the pharmacy, anything you go to pharmacy, you have to buy from your pocket. But if you go to the private hospitals and the GPs, so I would say most of the people, 80% of the business which comes from the private hospital, they are on insurance because they are killingly expensive. If you're not under insurance, I don't think it'll be easier for anyone to afford the cost of the treatment in private hospitals. So private hospitals, most of the patients who go, they are either foreigners or under insurance. Now you come to the GP market. GP market, either you can pay cash also, but most of the people, since the employment rate is very high here, most of the people are employed. So they're under panels. They're under panels. So, for example, like the electricity board here, we call it Tenaga National. If you are an employee of Tenaga National, then Tenaga National will appoint a lot of clinics under their panels. You go there, you get everything done. You don't have to pay anything there.
Right, sir.
So what happens when the economy is down, industry is in trouble, then there's a problem in panels. So when the panel is affected, then it affects the sale in private sector.
Sir, one question arises. It goes to you as well as if any suggestions come from Yicheng also. If some company is very strong in European market as well as in US market, but they are very, very new in Malaysia. So how people here means pharmacists, doctors, as well as the practice like importers, distributors, how they react on such companies?
See, I will give you the first reaction as an importer. If some company has a business in US or Europe, so we usually jump onto that company, because if you're able to register your products in that part of the world, most likely you'll be able to provide us dossiers for this part of the world as well. Except there's a change of, we require zone 4 stability studies in Malaysia. Other than this, there is no advantage. To be very, I know some people, they want to hear that, yo, it's a very big advantage. You are in US or you are in the UK. You have to start from the scratch as far as registration process is concerned. The only advantage you have here, as Miss Yicheng was mentioning, that you need to have COPP where product is being sold and commercialized in the country of origin. Suppose your product is not being commercialized in the country of origin. In that case, you can provide us COPP from the Europe or US. That COPP will be accepted there. That's the only advantage you have. Miss Yicheng, I'm right?
You are
please unmute. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, COPP from another country other than the country of origin is subject to further acceptance by the MPRA on a case-to-case basis.
Case-to-case basis. But usually if it is from UK or Europe and US, the chances are they'll accept it. Actually, I have spoken to the ministry that why they are so dead against it, that the product is not commercialized. This is part of the anti-dumping policy. They want, we don't want to be dumped by some product which you feel is not right enough to market in your country of origin.
Right. By considering 32 million population in dense geographical area, Malaysia, does supply chain management is really required in Malaysia?
Yeah. You see, whether a country is small or big, supply chain is a very important part of our pharmaceutical industry, any industry which are in sales and marketing. See, Malaysia is a very small country. If you see the map, it is divided into two regions. One is a peninsular Malaysia, where I'm sitting right now, Kuala Lumpur area. Another one is a Borneo Island, which is I think 2.5 to 3 hours flight from here. So that Borneo Island, it borders Brunei and Indonesia. So there it is a challenge. Like in Malaysia, most of the goods are being supplied by courier. It is not like India that everywhere we are using road transport to supply the goods. In Malaysia, like for example, like in our case, we don't do distribution and warehousing. Our warehousing distribution, we have outsourced it to someone because it is expensive. It's very expensive, because sometimes you have 100 ringgit invoice and you end up spending 20 ringgit on the courier. So we have outsourced it to the warehousing distribution company, because they have got volumes to supply. So the cost goes down. There are some companies, they follow the same model also. They have their own distributions, but most of the supplies are done by the courier here. But when you supply to the East Malaysia, which is the Borneo Island, and it is expensive to send by air. So some of the products are being sent by air, some by sea.
Which we have noticed in your presentation, the per capita income of Malaysia is very strong, does still price of drug is effective in Malaysia?
Effective means
The lesser price products are more sellable compared to a good brand but higher price.
you see, I already discussed with you that there was a perception that drugs coming from India are of no quality, good quality, many years ago. Even when I joined 20 years ago in Malaysia, I used to find a lot of resistance. They used to tell us, our doctors, that remove India. Andhra Pradesh, Bangalore is okay. I remember I used to get this query in Singapore particularly. There is a perception in the general population also that drugs which are from the multinational company, because awareness level is very high in Malaysia because of high literacy level.
Literacy, yeah.
It is 95% literate country. Their awareness is very high, very high. Their access to the internet is very high. So because of that, their knowledge about this, whatever is available net is quite good. So their preference goes there. But please understand, when it comes to the chronic medication, because of the long-term treatment, sometimes they go and ask for a more economical version. But if you go to a private hospital, you be ready that you will be prescribed original only. I'll just give you example, Mr. Pandey. My wife went to see orthopedic. He prescribed Celebrex, very high price. So I told him that we have in our company, we don't need to buy. For the benefit of the panel, we have this Celecoxib Mr. Pandey is applying to us. So doctor was not very happy about it. Number one, he lost business because he was selling at very high price. So if you go to the private hospitals, cost is secondary. They are going to prescribe you most likely a multinational product. So the higher income, you cannot directly relate it with the. I want to tell you, people who are more rich, they're more stingy.
We have noticed.
It's a fact.
Right. You know, the people who can consume their money, so they only can be rich.
I'm so sorry if I'm offending anyone rich on the panel here.
Sir, in our discussion, we have came with many words, including literacy. So plus 95% literacy rate in Malaysia. Is still any job opportunity for salespeople, outsiders, not Malaysians, outsiders, not only for sales, the people who are working in plant manufacturing like QC, QA, R&D, what is opportunity for them in Malaysia?
You see, Malaysia is a very small country as far as population or the market size is concerned. And it's a $1.75 billion market, and out of which is predominantly dominated by multinational companies. So you see, if you see the presence of Indian companies with their own operations in Malaysia as compared to Philippines or Vietnam or Cambodia, probably Cambodia will have more number of Indian companies having their own operations than Malaysia.
True.
So, so as far as multinational companies are concerned, yes, there are few Indian nationals working in multinational companies here, and but all these Indian companies who are already present, they have their own managers, either from India or they have some local managers here also. Number two, we all will agree that expatriate has a price tag. Is expensive. It costs to the company. So it depends on that company that. Whether, because you see, quality comes at a price, right? So whether they are able to pay for that quality or not. Number one. Number two, I don't see many Indian expats in sales and marketing in Malaysia. To name few, I think we have in Cipla, then Dr. Reddy's, then there's one more distribution company like us, 2-3. So as I know, we are not more than 8 to 10, maybe 7 to 8 in Malaysia in pharmaceutical sales and marketing. But yes, when it comes to the manufacturing segment, you will find a lot of pharmacists from India in QA and QC. I've got a neighbor, they work with, I know 2-3 people, they work in GSK, they work in Pharmanaga. So the India's pharmaceutical professionals, not only pharmaceutical professionals, even people with a regulatory background, particularly in manufacturing segment, because as far as like Yijing is concerned, she is a pharmacist. She can only operate as a pharmacist if she's registered with Malaysia Pharmacy Board. So you cannot hire a pharmacist from India to represent your company in Ministry of Health, because they will not be registered with the pharmacy board here. So those people can work in QA, QC, and there are a lot. Not only in Malaysia, you'll be surprised to know, I know some companies in Europe, in Thailand, in QA, QC, a lot of it is represented by Indian nationals with the pharmacy background. Okay. Scope कम है job का यहाँ पे, right? Because अभी मेरे को retire होने में बहुत वक्त है.
We all will share our CV with you. Sir, one gentleman who is watching since sharp 11 o'clock Indian time, he has gone through taxation part, all norms. He has heard all about regulatory part. Now he is asking a straight question. What is your suggestion? Should I start new company in Malaysia or should I wait for some time? He is keeping a clause post Corona.
All right. You see, you have already seen, Sukhinder has mentioned that you need at least 2 months to register a company. Then you, as Ms. Yijing has also mentioned, that you need at least 2 years to register the product after BE clearance. Am I right, Yijing?
Yes, for oral solid dosage form containing poison.
So,
yes.
Because this bioequivalence issue, it takes sometime 5 to 6 months. So it takes almost. Yijing has been on a conservative side. Usually, it takes, if everything is all right, from by the time you get the BE studies, and by the time you get registration, it takes almost 3 years. So 3.5 years. So this is for the benefit of this viewer. If you want to start a company, this pandemic is not going to affect him, because by the time he will become operational, it will be 3.5 years down the line, number one. Number two, it depends how deep pocket he has, because if you want to start a company in Malaysia, number one, you should have a lot of money. Number two, you should have a lot of patience. Because once you start a company, and with all due regards to our Indian pharmaceutical industry, the patience level in Indian pharmaceutical industry still needs to improve. Because within 1 year, they will share profit and loss statement with you, which will show loss for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Because number one, you need time to register a company and the products. And after that, you need a basket of the products. Probably it will take 5-6 years. So if your company or your financial background and the patience level allows you to have patience for 4 to 5 years, then you start the company in Malaysia. Otherwise, don't do that. Otherwise, we are here.
Thank you so much for this session. Any public message for all viewers?
Number one, stay safe, right? Stay safe. And I heard a lot of our Indian brothers, sisters, 90%, they're not wearing mask. So please wear mask, right? And that's all. And I already mentioned that I'm privileged to be based in Malaysia. It's a very beautiful country. And healthcare is fantastic. Infrastructure is fantastic. The only problem here is strict registration guidelines, which in a way it is good. You feel less competition. Otherwise, Malaysia will become a market like Cambodia. Because Cambodia, you have not even heard of the company in India. They're present in Cambodia.
Right.
So what happens because of this? There are a lot of generics available, and price will be shocked. I went to Cambodia in an area where you have a lot of pharmacies. So I was surprised to see. I said, I don't believe it. They say, can I buy it? There was one product, tramadol paracetamol, the price, Korean product. So in a way, it is good. It's a good market. It's a very honest market. It's a very stable market. But you need to have patience to be into this market.
Right, sir. The pharmaceutical market completely based on patient. If the patients are there, then definitely we should develop our patience. Then we'll get success.
But Indians don't have that.
I just said, sir, about mask. So the place where you have started your career, like Agra as well as Faizabad, both the places I had been in last month, nobody used mask. So this is just for your information. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Any other
Praveenji,
question?
can I interject? I from a very insignificant experience with the Malaysian market, I have some questions for Parvotji.
Sure.
So can you guide us on what is, in terms of percentage, what is the ratio of the tender and the private market in Malaysia? And what role the local companies, or I would say the right term, Bhumiputra companies play when it comes to the tender market?
Actually, Malaysia, I would suggest 65 to 70% business, it comes from the government sector.
Okay.
And which is dominated by multinational companies because of 22 years patent protection. Then whatever is left, then it goes to local manufacturers. Because I will just give you an example, like metformin SR. There was one recent tender, 4.5 million boxes of hundreds to be supplied in 3 years. But gone to local manufacturers because they have to protect the local industry also. And if we people have to survive, we have to think ahead of the time, and we have to bring those products which are not easy to manufacture locally. So Bhumiputra, as far as Bhumiputra is concerned, the meaning of Bhumiputra is son of the soil, right? So the Bhumiputras are those companies who are majority shareholder are Malays. Because you know Malaysia is a multiracial country. It has got 65% Malay population, and Malays are predominantly, they follow Islam. Then we have got, I think, 20% plus Chinese people from the China, but they're Malaysians. Like I Ching is considered as Malaysian Chinese. Sukhwinder is considered as a Malaysian Indian. Then there's 6 to 7% are from India. From India means the Indian descent.
Indian descent.
So in order to give business to the Malays who were at one time not so well off economically, government wanted to develop them into the business. So now they're registered with the Ministry of Finance. So you, as a company, in Malaysia, we cannot directly deal with any hospital. We cannot directly send them an invoice. They cannot directly pay it to us. So what they have done, they have appointed Bhumi agents, Bhumiputra company. So whenever there is a tender, we participate in the tender through a Bhumiputra company. So we send the stocks to the hospitals. We send the invoice to the Bhumiputra. Bhumiputra claims the money from the government. He keeps his commission and he pays back to us. So this is the role of a Bhumiputra, that you cannot do business without involving them. And they charge their commissions. And they also have their salespeople which will visit various hospitals. They also have a full-fledged team.
So I mean, they only play the part of an intermediary, or they also play some role in the distribution and sales of the product?
No, nothing.
No. Okay.
Distribution is our responsibility. Mm-hmm. Keeping stock is my responsibility. Sales promotion in the hospital is my responsibility. If there is a product complaint, that is our responsibility, right? Any non-compliance is our responsibility. If there are late deliveries, then yes, sometimes we get a call directly from the hospital also. But their job is to facilitate the invoicing and the payment back from the government, and they charge commission on our invoicing price.
And how well are they in terms of payment? Suppose if the payment is routed
Payment
to them?
wise, this is what I told you. It's a beautiful country that Malaysian hospitals will not place the order if they don't have budget.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So
Because
the payments are
time,
good.
most of the time when it comes to tenders, a lot of manufacturers have this concern whether the payments will be received on time or not.
Actually, Malaysia that way is not a problem. Within 60 days, 60, it depends what kind of conditions you have with the Bhumi agent. 60 to 90 days, you can get the payment, and there's no issue about it. It's a very honest, straightforward market. You won't find any shortcuts, whether product registration or product listing or any tender. People will come and tell you so many things. Main 20 saal se I can do this thing, I can do that thing. Malaysia does not have any space for such kind of unethical activities.
Okay, I understand.
It's a very honest country.
Mr. Joshi, one of our viewer, Mr. Vishal Chandra, has a question for you.
Vishalji.
Yes, he wishes to ask you, are the OTC products also given free of cost in the public sector?
First of all, my namaskar to Mr. Vishal Chandra. He is my dear friend. He is based somewhere in Germany. And yeah, I wanted to, he has asked a very good question, in fact. You see, we mentioned there's the government has 65 to 70% business, right? Please understand, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Defense, they have a drug formulary, right? So drug formulary means like in Malaysia, we have what I put in my slide, 6,000 plus drugs listed in drug formulary. So hospitals can only use those products which are listed in drug formulary, right? If your product is not listed in drug formulary, number one, hospital will not have an authority to buy and pay for it. They won't have authority to prescribe. Since OTC drugs are not listed in drug formulary, so there is no question of getting free from the government hospitals.
Okay.
But yes, you will be amazed to know that it is such a wonderful country that even sildenafil citrate is listed in drug formulary in Malaysia. The Malaysian government takes care of people's sexual life as well. So I usually laugh at people when you see how beautiful is your government and you still say we are not happy. You should be happy with the government. So since OTC drugs are not listed in drug formulary, so Vishalji, there is no scope to get it free.
Okay. My last question with you, Prabhuji, is there a concept of MRP, maximum retail price in the private market?
In fact, now Malaysian government is trying on it, but there is no MRP concept in Malaysia. The prices are driven by the competition. Prices are driven by the market. And yes, when you're first generic or second generic, your manufacturer also sells at a high price. You also sell at a high price accordingly. But ultimately, when competition comes into play, the prices get settled. And but there's no MRP.
Good to know. Okay, thank you for deliberation, Mr. Joshi. Over to you, Praveenji.
Thank you so much, and thanks. You have chosen that question. I supposed to ask because it was pinging continuous. We are running with some short of time, so what we'll do? We will drop some question offline to Ms. Joshi, to Sukhinda ma'am, as well as to Ms. E. Cheng. And thank you once again that you had given this time on a special Sunday. Mostly people don't like to, go anything like education or something, especially on Sunday. So thank you so much. I'll hand over session to Mr. Paul.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Praveenji. In fact, this was a very insightful session. And the best part was about what Prabodhji said. Investing in Malaysia, there is a very good scope, but we need to exercise one very big thing, that is patience. Because patience is going to be very painful. And he highlighted this with two wonderful pain management drugs. One he said about celecoxib, the second about the tramadol paracetamol combination. But after all that pain, if the government even takes care of the aphrodisiac as well as the sildenafil, and then you can't speak any better for the government, because
Right.
honesty at its very best, and this is what we always say, that the country is having a very good governance. So well said, sir. This is time I acknowledge our audience in Facebook, because they have been with us from 11 o'clock. To name a few of them, Mr. Jaideep Datta, Mr. Amitesh Mishra, Mr. Aramugam Arasan, Mr. Vishal Chandra, Mr. Rahul Singh Gelot, Mr. Yashwant Mishra, Mr. Surendra Reddy, and Mr. Rathi Manish. So these are some of our wonderful viewers and audiences who have been with us right through the beginning of this program, and they have appreciated the wonderful insights that our speakers have put in today. So as it is customary, we have always seen that instead of pushing and prodding in the red oceans, if we come out of them and put ourselves in the blue oceans, the markets are very much there, and we are definitely going to be successful. So what we basically need is a change in our mindset, a change in our attitude. And today exactly, I will be narrating a 2-minute story, which is definitely going to bring home this point of a change in mindset about some blue oceans. In fact, there were 2 senior shoe salesmen who were sent to survey a rural market as part of the company's expansion to India's rural markets. So it is pretty evident, as we all know, that not too many people in rural India wear footwear. So one salesman hurried back to the head office and made an announcement that there is no business there, because nobody wears shoes there in the rural areas, in the villages. But the second salesman had a different idea. He decided to stay back and study exactly why people don't wear shoes or footwear. And he discovered some very interesting facets of rural India. And in his report, he actually said that we can have our largest showroom here because nobody wears shoes yet, and there is no competitor in sight. All we have to do is to work with the local panchayat and the village school to create an awareness campaign on the benefits of wearing footwear. So there is an old management saying which says that you have got to fish in a pond where the fish are. We cannot fish somewhere else where the fishes aren't there. So as professional salespeople, sometimes we do not get a ready-made market. And in that case, we need to think very differently about the potential that the market has and convert that to our advantage. And that's where our charisma lies. So the attitude with which we get up in the morning is the attitude we are going to be stuck for the entire day. And that's exactly what LPC gives us Sunday after Sunday. Morning 11 o'clock, the attitude with which we enter into LPC program, we share our knowledge, we share our experience, is the same attitude with which we pass the next 7 days of the week, with again a Sunday coming for sharing the learning. So that's something LPC has been doing for over 1.5 years. Now, since we are towards the fag end of this program, I will once again go back to the speakers for their 1-minute take or their take home from today's session. So first of all, I will request Sukhvinder ma'am to give her 1-minute take from today's session.
Okay, okay. I really enjoyed the session and, sharing of knowledge, even though I was not so familiar with my product registration department. So it was quite helpful to me also. And I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. We also enjoyed the way you shared your knowledge with all of us, because investment in knowledge gives us the biggest ROI, and we are here for knowledge sharing. So next, I will go over to Chen ma'am for her 1-minute take home from today's session.
First of all, thanks for having me on this online platform. It's great to learn from both Mr. Sukhvinder and Mr. Joshi regarding the taxation part, as well as the business market in Malaysia, as well as to meet different people the coordinators. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed our pleasure having you on our platform, because the wonderful learnings that you shared about the regulatory part was indeed insightful for so many of us, including our audience. Next, I will go to Prabodh sir for his 1 minute take on this session.
To be on a lighter side, now Sukhwinder knows how hard work Iching has to put in. Now Iching also knows how hard work Miss Sukhwinder has to put in. So today's learning for them is that they both have to respect each other even more now. Right? Okay, first of all, I would like to thank your entire team, and I would like to thank Mr. Hitesh particularly, because me and Hitesh, we know each other since 1995. So Hitesh has approached me. When we speak in a very casual language. You know what he asked me? The bhashan doge? मैं भी कहाँ भाषण दोगे? कहता LPC में भाषण दोगे? Now, if you say we will, and I'm thankful to him and your team that you have given us this platform to share our experience, because in life, earning is not everything. While you earn, you make it a point that whatever you have learned, you share it with your other colleagues, because sharing is caring is very important. So thank you very much. I would not say much. Yes, I find it's a very educational platform. It will definitely help Indian pharmaceutical industry even more to grow and expand faster than what it has been in previous years. And once again, namaskar and thanks a lot for giving us this opportunity to be part of this wonderful platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. In fact, the wonderful analogy that you gave about learning and earning, because remove the L from learning, it becomes earning. So the more learning we put in, the better becomes our earning. So that's what LPC is all about, sharing that learning. Next, I will go to Preeti Jitani ma'am for her 1 minute take on LPC.
Thank you, LPC, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the panel again one more time. And as always, it's a pleasure to connect with all the speakers, because it adds on to my knowledge, it adds on to more networking and knowing more about newer countries or newer people. So thank you, LPC, thank you, speakers, and thank you, my colleagues and co-panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Preeti ji. That was a very good take home from your end. Next, I'll go over to Saurabh Mishra ji for his 1 minute take on today's LPC.
Arpanji, thank you so much. I would like to start by expressing my gratitude towards LPC for providing this opportunity to share the screen with eminent speakers today. Especially, I would like to mention Mr. PK Joshi, Mr. Kaur Randhawa, and Ms. Iching for their presence today. In fact, Mr. Prabodh has said rightly that a lot of preparation goes behind to present a show today, and we have received detailed presentations in PPT format from all three of you, and that speaks of the effort and the enthusiasm with which you would like to participate today. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be sharing the screen with you, even though with some preliminary information about Malaysian market. It is always a pleasure and an insight to hear from the people who are actually managing the show on the ground. And I would also like to thank you, my co-panelists, Ms. Preeti Jitani, Mr. Praveen Pandey, for their contribution and cooperation on a very short notice. Thank you everyone. Over to you, Arpan sir.
Thank you so much, Saurabh ji. Indeed, for a 15 minutes presentation or a deliberation, it requires hours of preparation. And that's exactly what gives us the best of results. And today we have seen that. So next, I'll go over to Praveen Pandey ji for his 1 minute take home on this session.
Thank you so much, Arpan ji. It's really a great learning. We have heard with legends, I should say. Mr. Joshi, whose experience is just lesser than 1 or 2 years than my age, and we have heard many things about Malaysian market, and definitely it will help us to grow in our career. If in future we have any plan to start own setup, then definitely again it will help us, because now we are very good about how to initiate company, what is regulated terms, as well as where we can keep profit and where we cannot. So a special thank you to Mr. Joshi, to Sukhwinder ji, and to Iching. Thank you so much, and all good day to everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Pravinji. That was a wonderful take home from your side. So indeed, LPC has definitely transcended boundaries and has truly become the world's largest online pharma discussion platform. In fact, it has gone to many parts of the globe, and it's trying to bring all under a single roof of learning, which we can always call as a departmental store of learning. So the endeavor, which was started by Ramanji 1.5 years back, is definitely yielding the fruits of the labor. In fact, what I always believe, that we need to create islands of excellence in a sea of mediocrity. So that is exactly what we are all here for. So before we sign off for the day, I would once again like to thank our session support partner, Stream Communication, Mr. Rahul Jain, for his uninterrupted support for our LPC program. So this is Arpan Kumar Paul from LPC signing off for today, LPC-86 Global Leadership, with the promise of once again coming back to you next Sunday with another set of wonderful young leaders at 11 a.m. IST. Thank you so much, and goodbye, everybody.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ching, thank you.